Let's take a look at section 4.4, and the entire section is all about using an accumulator variable to keep track of something, a total, as you're going through a loop. So maybe you have a list of numbers and you want to add them up. Or you're taking input from the user and you want to add those up. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, we have two components to this. We have a loop because we have to use a loop for this to go through. And then inside that loop, we're going to have an accumulator variable. Now this accumulator variable typically we'll use total or sum or some type of thing like that. It's anything that we want to use. It's not a reserved word. It's any kind of variable name that we'd like to use for this. And what it will do is it will take the input from the user or pull from a list, whatever we're doing, and add it to a total. And then so the next time it runs through a list, it takes that new input amount, whatever it might be, add it to the total again. So when we get done, we have a grand total of everything that's been entered. So it's a really great way to look at keeping a running total to end up with a sum, and it's awesome. So I wanted to show you an example. So I just kind of made up a quick example over here from this link, and we'll look at it in a minute. But you'll also see on the next slide an example with our first programming challenge. So the first homework assignment, 4-1, not really that big a deal. We'll take a look at it in a second so you can see it's a great little program for you to play with. But let's look at this example first. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up in Python Tutor. All right, so here we go. We have a couple things we're going to do. We're going to initialize variables, and so we're trying to get in the habit of doing that. So I know that I'm going to use a counter, and it can be count. You've seen count before in previous videos, or just counter, whatever you'd like to use. So we're setting that at 0, and then we're using a total variable right here. Now, the total variable is actually our accumulator. And so here's the way this works. You step through this and you'll see print. Here's just saying, this program calculates the sum of three numbers. Great, whatever. And then we come down here. So we're getting the numbers, we're accumulating them here. So here is our range, our for loop using range. So we're saying for counter, which we know started at 0, in range 3. So there we go there. And we're going to go ahead and go, hey, wait a second. I'm going to take an input from the user. It's going to be an integer. It really doesn't matter. I guess I don't know, change this. It really makes no difference at all. So maybe we'll use a float to open it up a little bit more, and why not, right? So anyway, so we have this float in there. So here we're asking for a number. That's our variable that we're getting in here. Then you'll notice the very next line on line 11 here is total, which is our accumulator variable. Notice what it's doing. It's taking the total and adding in the previous total, taking the previous total and adding whatever number you enter to that, which is now, of course, becoming the new total. So, and each time you run through, it's going to keep doing that. So it's going to go through 3 times and set this up. So let's look at it because I think it'll make a little bit more sense as we're walking through it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up a little bit. I'm going to say next. And here we're setting these pieces here. Here's our little display. And we're going to go ahead and say, now that we're in this loop, see the red, we're going to go ahead and say next. And then if I pull this up a little bit, enter a number. So here's my first input, and I'm just going to use the number, I don't know, 8. And I hit submit. There's my number. You can see it up there too. And now when I say next, it's going to take the total value, which is 0, and it's going to add this number value that I just entered of 8 to that, and that becomes the new total. So I'm going to go back in. My counter was at 0. Now my counter will be at 1. So here's my next time through. It's asking me for a number again. This time I'll enter the number 5. I don't know why I'm in 5. Sounds good. So hey, next, here's my number right here as 5. You can see it listed up here in the output. And then I'm going to say next again. Now watch what total does this time. It's going to take the 8 and it's going to use the 8 here and add the number that I just entered of 5 will be here, and my new total will be 13. If I can still add in my head. Okay, good, perfect. So that's what we've ended up. Now total is the new accumulated value for total. That's what we've got here. So 13 there. I'm going to go one more time because now my counter is going to be a 2. It's going to ask me for a number. This time I will say 7. Here's my number. It's going to now this equation, keep this in your head here. This equation is saying I want the new value of total to be the current value of total, which is 13, plus the new number value, which is 7. So this will end up being 20 now, the new value. So here we go. There's 20 right there. We've now exhausted this. It's run 3 times. So when I hit next, it's going to skip down and say, okay, print the total is, and there's my total number of 20 listed there. Okay, so this is a nice little sample program for you to check out. And again, it's right from this link right here. All right, so if you want to play with it, check it out and run through, put some different numbers in, go for it. You can put negative numbers in; it really makes a difference, but it's totally up to you. So just kind of recap, just to show you this next slide, we're setting the accumulator to 0. We're saying, is there a number to read in this? This is our loop here. If there is, we're going to keep running through. It's going to read the next number, add the number to the accumulator, and keep going until there are no other numbers. Or like for example, in that last one, the range ran out, and that was it. Okay, so you get a chance to practice this with your first homework assignment. This is the Bug Collector program, and it's Programming Challenge 1. There is a video from the author that goes with it, so you're not doing this on your own. And there are some different things that you can do with this one kind of along the way, but you'll see Tony Gaddis, our author, will walk you through it. So check out the video, put this program together, and see how you do with it. Hopefully you're kind of getting the hang of this stuff, and it won't be too bad. Okay, and then you'll see as I come down here, sort of our first little practice break, you'll see you've got couple other programming challenges that you see in Canvas. You'll see the ones that I'll unlock as I get going. For now, you'll see this one, and then I'll unlock a few others for you to practice with too. And then don't forget about my lab. Now, for this section of my programming lab, 4.2, 3, and 4, as you go through these and you're coming up with your own answers, and you're submitting them, and looking at them, look at the solutions tab because you'll see lots of ways that you can correctly do these loops and or maybe doing the range or whatever it might be with them. But there's not too many. I think there's only like 3 per section or something like that. But take a look at them because there are quite a few different ways of doing these, and I think you can, by looking at the solutions tab, you'll see some other ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of with how to write these loops. So I think it's kind of a fun one for you to look at. All right, so thanks and have fun with accumulators.